3, 2, 1. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer podcast episode. It's fucking 200, guys.
200.
Listen, I put together a little something. It's not the something I wanted to happen, so we're going to do a 200, probably A and B, part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
But you know what? This is going to have to work. It has been a hell of a fucking week, guys.
It has.
It's been a hell of a week. I immediately, before filming this episode, was given, we'll just say, poor news. So, like, I had to spend, like, 20 minutes, like, wrapping my brain around the news and, like, getting myself together and being like, okay, well, here we go. Let's film episode fucking 200.
You know, I think we were about ready to come up here, and then you checked your text messages.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then you were like, we got to take a minute.
Fucking life, you know?
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah, rough start, but we're here. We made it.
Well, 200. We made it to 200.
We did.
Josh, 200 episodes.
Yeah.
Give me your spin on the last 200. Give me some like high moments. Give me some fucking. You got anything to share in the last 200 episodes?
Oh yeah, I mean, where to start? You know, I actually just saw the other day, like episode 1, where
I did today also.
Oh yeah, you've been going through everything, but yeah, I think we had the camera like right there.
Sure did.
No lighting.
A white card table.
Yeah,
the audio was actually, I did make sure the audio was pretty good come episode 1, so the audio sounded pretty good, but like the visuals weren't.
Yeah.
They didn't hit.
Yeah, the visuals were not hitting for maybe the first like 40 episodes.
Yeah, and blank ass weird colored walls, shitty card table, right? Just like weird camera angle. Then it transitioned to, we got this table. Yep. And we had the camera angle that was like here facing straight up at me.
Your point and shoot.
Yeah. The visuals have improved quite a bit.
Yes,
in that time. So,
Yeah. And that's when we were still trying to figure out what we were doing. I mean, we were just kind of reading books and, I don't know, just kind of random thoughts.
Yeah. But that was interesting is the first probably like 15 episodes or so was like I had the girls on, right? We had like ex-trainers of mine, like, stuff like that. It was a lot of like guess but not guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we started transitioning to like finding our rhythm with it a little bit, and it just kind of progressed from there.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I'm mostly impressed with how consistent we've been. I know we've missed a few weeks here and there, but I mean,
so the very first episode was June 25th, 2021. Or no, was it June or was it July? I wrote down June, but I feel like that doesn't sound accurate. Unless did we? Oh no, you know what it was? It was earlier than that because remember we were uploading them to my personal YouTube initially, and then we transitioned over to using the Miracle one.
Yeah, let me see.
Go on there and figure out when the first one was posted. I forgot about that. That originally this was not going to be a Miracle Canine project.
Right.
And then we had decided to switch over because we already had a pretty good following on the Miracle Canine page.
Yeah.
That's so funny. What do you got? Did you find it?
Yeah, I did. No, January 11th, 2021.
Jan 11th, 2021. That's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah, because I was like
21, 22, 23, 24.
Yeah, I was pretty sure we started right at the first of the year.
So that's 5 years.
Yeah, there it is.
Bro, that's literally 5 years.
I'm going to have to take a clip of this so everyone can see.
So technically, if we did every single week in 5 years, that would have been 260 episodes. And we did 201 technically because yesterday was 200 less.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn consistent.
Yeah. Oh my God. You didn't even have the posters up yet.
Dude, nothing.
No posters, no TV.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
5 years. Fuck, man. I didn't realize it was that long, actually.
I didn't either.
Holy shit. Hell yeah.
Dang. I'm glad that you guys like us enough to stick around for 5 years.
Yeah, right? Josh, do you have any memorable episodes or things you just remember as like shit? Like I just like this memory of the podcast sticks in my head.
Yeah, I mean there's quite a few. I guess the number one that probably most people remember is the Dog Daddy stuff. I mean, I think that's our biggest one to date.
Still the biggest one.
And I think that as far as celebrities and stuff like that, whatever.
Yeah.
The clout. I think that one was fun because
clout.
Yeah, because I feel
that was the clout.
I just feel like we were the first people to like really get him to talk about things.
Yeah.
Not just like bullshit, but like, I mean, maybe some of it was bullshit, but
yeah,
we got to more of his backstory and people got to learn a little bit more about him because of us.
Yeah.
I think that one, the first one specifically was like what do we call it? The Dog Daddy tells all.
Yeah, he tells all, something like that. Yeah. That was crazy that we had the 2 episodes with him, it's so funny. I remember dude, that dude is such a character. He's such a character. Like I have like shifted my view of like, I don't even really see him as a dog trainer anymore.
No.
He's just a fucking social media guy.
Literally.
Right? And like I said, I have never been the one that's been like, oh, I don't like his training methods or think he's doing anything terribly wrong or anything. Like, I don't have any problem with any of that, honestly. Contextually, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But God, especially after the last one we did, and I remember I was asking him, I was like, dude, why are you trying to be so sensationalized, everything, you know? And it's obviously for the clout, if you will, but he just got so extreme with it that it's very, very challenging to take anything that he does seriously at this point.
That's the problem with people like that, though. It's you always have to one up yourself.
The most recent thing post when we had that last conversation with him was the fucking Uber dog situation. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Where he claimed that he got in an Uber.
The dog was there.
And there was coincidentally a black long-haired German Shepherd puppy in the Uber that somebody just abandoned, that he took on himself. That's the same breed as all his other dogs. And dude, for a year, he played off this Uber thing. And what blew my mind is I would go in the comment section of the videos that he was posting of it, where he was dead ass serious. No, these people are trying to sue me now and blah, blah, blah. And people in the comments are believing it.
Yeah. Dude,
I don't want to be how stupid can you be? But how stupid can you be?
Right.
Get real.
Yeah.
That is I don't even know what the statistical odds of that happening are.
1 in trillions, bro.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. And then that fell off for a little bit, and he stopped posting stuff altogether. And then he had all this drama of he was talking about how he had assistants of his that were stealing all his stuff, and then he stopped training for a while, and then just recently he started posting about this fucking Uber dog again.
Yeah.
Claiming there's more stuff going on with it, and they're now trying to give him another it's insane.
Yeah, just let it go, bro.
It's insane. Oh my God. I get it. I could understand why somebody like that is so divisive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just stick to training dogs.
Yeah. I mean,
stick to training dogs.
He saw how much money the weird shit was giving him, so
yeah.
Listen,
when you have millions of fucking YouTube followers, you're making some coin off that.
Yeah.
So.
And then I think another one of my favorites was, this might be a point of contention for people, but Jeff Gellman,
the Gellman one was good.
Yeah,
that one went under the radar because we had technical difficulties with it. We didn't get the video. I forgot to hit record on the Zoom, right? Which was fucking annoying. Pissed me off so much because he was one of our first big guests that we had, and we couldn't really promote it because of that. We didn't have any video from it, obviously.
Yeah, but I thought that was a great conversation with him.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I've talked about it before. Jeff has just been around for so long. He still is podcasting 4 times a week. Dude, that dude, you want to talk? I think we've talked about this before. I think we're up there as far as most consistent dog training podcasts. Probably, definitely top 5, I would say. Yeah. I would argue top 3. But that dude is just on another level with as much as he's been doing it.
Right.
And there are times I've grown out of a lot of Jeff Gellman stuff at this point. Yeah. You know what I mean? There are a lot of areas that I would say that I don't know if disagree is the right word. I what he's doing is working for him, but there's a lot of areas where I just don't I'm not interested in training the way that he's training in some places.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, man. Like, you still follow him. The dude himself is training dogs still right now.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for so long. Mm-hmm. The dude, go on his social media. You will see every single day him posting content of him training the board and trains, living in his house. Mm-hmm. He's grinding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've got to respect that. You got to respect that, you know? And his clients are happy. So, yeah, that was a good one. I liked that episode.
Yeah. I mean, then we had your kind of guru, Tyler Muto.
Tyler was a good one.
Yeah. Tyler was a great one, too. Can you talk?
Do you remember when I grilled you on learning theory that one time?
Yeah. I don't want to talk about that.
That was a memorable moment for me.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
That really made you... I gave you a headache that day.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't get it. And now don't ask me about it again right now because I will screw it up again. So please don't.
So here's what I did this morning.
Yes.
I just like went through, and I obviously couldn't watch them all, right?
Yeah.
But I went through and just like looked at all of the episodes.
Yeah.
Right. And like it was just kind of sparking certain conversations and eras of the podcast.
Sure.
And I get people that ask me all the time. They say, "Hey, I'm having this issue. Do you have a podcast or a video that I should watch?" And I'm just like, I mean, yeah, but like there's fucking 200 of them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is at this stage in the game.
Yeah.
So I kind of just like, as I was going through, jotted down memorable episodes that like, even from so long ago, I was like, oh, I remember doing this one.
Yeah.
Right. And I have the episode number. We'll talk a little bit on some of these episodes. And I want you guys to almost use this episode as like an index, if you will. Right? Of like, if you're looking for information on this, go watch this episode. If you're looking for information on this, go watch this episode. Mm-hmm. Right? So,
Okay.
that's what we'll do here. I kind of went through, you know, and just pulled some key ones here. So, starting off with obviously episode number 1. I think anybody that listens to this podcast should go watch that episode.
Yeah.
I just think that like it's like the what do they call the origin story, right?
Yeah.
It tells the origin story.
Yeah.
Like I remember filming that first episode like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do or not, but I remember the night before I was so stressed out because
Dude,
I was like,
were.
fuck. Like first, I've never done a podcast before.
Yeah.
I've always done these like scripted videos.
Yeah.
Like, how's it going to go? What am I going to talk about? You
Yeah.
know, this and that. So I remember the night before, I just fucking made this one page. Like, I did so much like research into. I'm going to start by talking about this. Then I'm going to move on to talking about this. And here are 3 questions I pulled up. And I had this like page. I was like, this is going to be it. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go over this. And I remember that somehow the next morning I accidentally deleted it or I didn't save it the night before or something like that.
Yeah.
And I lost it. And I was like,
Yeah, I remember.
fuck.
You were pissed, bro.
Fuck. And I was able to remember relatively the things that I was going to talk about, but it was I wanted it to be like super scripted and like detailed, right? And it just wasn't the case. But it was cool because we talked about we broke down quotes at the beginning,
Yeah.
from like inspirational quotes that I felt applied to starting something new and sticking with it. And obviously we've been able to do that now for 5 years, stick with it. We were able to answer some good questions that we had gotten on the podcast. And we were able to just kind of start learning how to riff with each other a little bit
Yeah.
on just talking dogs, right?
Yeah.
And that was the one and only podcast that I ever scripted like that.
Yeah.
One and only one. After that, it was like breaking the ice after the first one where I was like, okay, I got it.
Yep.
I could just talk, you know? And some days are harder than others. Like there are some episodes where it's like I'm really just either not in the mood to do it. I had a situation like, you know, today, like I said, literally 30 minutes ago, I got like pretty bad news that I have to deal with after this, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got to be able to get yourself in the right frame of mind and just start talking. And this is the biggest thing that I think doing this podcast has taught me. And I think episode 1 is the best reflection of it, that we were able to sit down for an hour and 11 minutes and 18 seconds, as it says here, and just fucking talk about dogs and just tune everything else out.
Yeah.
So I think episode 1, man,
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I was going to ask, honestly, I feel like it's a good time to ask now, but like, as far as, I guess, like communication skills or speaking skills or just like riffing off the top of your head, like how important how has this podcast kind of shaped how you talk to people?
That's a good question, man.
Because I know you could already talk, like obviously, like, when we were doing our videos and learn like how-to videos, but I feel like that's different because it's like you're just talking about what you're doing with the dog at the time, but this is like actually talking almost to the ether. I mean, I'm here, you get to look at my face, but like, I feel like you've really pushed your boundary that a lot of people never get of like public speaking.
Yeah. The fact that it's not live still has an element of, I feel like I have the safety net of like, if I were to start screwing up with something, I could always hit pause. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like the lives, right? Particularly the one live that I did without you last month or whatever.
Yeah.
That was the first time. I was even telling Paige before we started it. That was the first time I ever really felt like nervous going into the podcast. Because I didn't have somebody I could like lean back on if I needed to. It was totally live, obviously.
Yeah.
So I do think there's still that missing element of that. But like nonetheless, I mean, I could probably count on one or two hands the amount of episodes we've ever had to like pause and like regroup and like get, you know what I mean? Like it has not happened very much. So I think it's forced me to like visualize a little bit more in my head of like, what message am I trying to convey? And then just figure out a way to articulate it. And the fact that it's long term, like you guys have all seen, like sometimes it goes smoother than others, but like it's forced me to be able to like find new ways of saying things. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if that's directly related to how I communicate with my clients necessarily. If anything, through talking it out this way, it's helped me reflect on things I've done with my lessons. Because a lot of times, like, we'll have lessons and then I'll talk about the lessons on the podcast. Yeah. Right. And it helps me to look back on the things I did in that lesson and either find holes in it or find places where I was trying to communicate a point to a client. And then as I was talking, I stumbled upon this thing that's like, oh my God, like, wow, that's a great way to say it. I'm going to say it like that next time.
Yeah.
So I would say that's how it's kind of helped, if anything.
For sure.
But yeah.
Because I think, I feel like last year before we, finally got this kind of plan for this year. Yeah. We had a lot of the quote unquote random podcasts. Random
episodes.
But I feel like those, probably are the craziest to me because you're like, I'll get here at, at like 10:30, and then we're just sitting there on your patio just talking about absolutely nothing. And I'm like, hey, what are we talking about today? And you're like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And then we come up here and then somehow like you're able to just literally make 40 to an hour of what, like, just basically riffing. You're like a comedian, like one of those comedians that like just rips on the people. Yeah. And you're able to like find something that happened at work or whatever, and you're able to dissect that in a way that is entertaining and informative for people.
You just have to find a groove. You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest thing.
You have the groove because it's pretty crazy.
All right, moving on here. So episode number 4, right? Episode number 4 was, and I will say the first handful of these, as I was going through, I was like, oh, I remember that one. Oh, I remember that one. Oh, I remember that one. Then I started needing to like space them out a little bit because it was like hitting a point where it was like every episode I was going through, I remembered, right? So number 4 was interesting, I thought, because it talked about when I first got Vera, my very first dog. And it talked about some mistakes that I made in owning a dog initially. And specifically, it talked about when I used to dabble in going to the dog park with her. Yeah. Right. And experiences that I, had there. The one time that I went there on a busy weekend and a big fight broke out, And in that episode, I went through and we used that as an episode to talk about why we don't like dog parks, obviously. Yeah. So nothing super memorable from that one. But if you're interested in hearing about that, obviously, that was a good one.
That was episode 4?
4.
That feels like we just talked about it yesterday.
Episode. I'm sure we've talked about it before, obviously, or multiple times. Yeah. But that was the very first one.
Wow. Jeez.
Episode 5. So you know what? Interestingly enough, as I was going through these, like the first like 10 to 15 episodes, I remember all of them so apparently because like every time we sat down to do it, it was like, damn, we got to film a pod. It was like a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like we were coming up with stuff. And I remember episode 5, we were like solely relying on guys, give us stuff to talk about. And I remember somebody said like, do an episode on the fucking button talking dogs.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I guess. And like, I had known about it, but I never really went into depth on it.
Yeah.
We started getting into that hunger person's fucking TikTok page and watching it and all that. And somehow we whipped up an entire episode talking about the button dogs. And I will say, we've talked about it a couple times before. As of recently, we had an episode where we talked on it for like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
This episode, I remember us like, I felt like I had my lab coat on and my clipboard. And like, I was so scientific about how I was breaking down this fucking button talking thing that I think that if you have any interest at all in that, that is the one to watch.
That's the button episode.
That was the button episode. We went hard on that episode.
Yeah, we were dogging them for sure.
Dogging them. I mean, it's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
The button thing is, again, how stupid can you be to like believe that that's actually happening? Well, some people are that stupid apparently.
Yeah.
So.
Food now.
Yeah. Moving on. Episode 11.
Okay.
The first time when Michelle came on the podcast.
Oh.
So Michelle obviously is our one-on-one trainer at the facility. Shout out Michelle, gangster trainer, whatever. She came on the podcast. She worked for a competitor at the time. She worked for a sit mean sit, a local sit mean sit. And listen, if you guys couldn't fucking tell, sometimes I can get a little crazy and talk a little bit of shit.
Yeah.
Right? And I never talked shit on Michelle specifically, but I used to talk a lot of shit about sit mean sit.
Yeah.
And she worked there and was representing the company. So understandably, she took a little offense to that.
Yeah.
Right? So she reached out to me and she was like, hey, it was actually kind of funny how she said, hey, heard you're talking shit.
I didn't know that. That's funny.
And she was like joking when she said it.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
we had known each other kind of before, right?
Yeah.
And we knew there was like no like hard feelings between us or anything. And she's like,
for
hey, I
sure.
heard you're talking shit. And I was like, why don't you come on the podcast? She came on the podcast. We had an awesome conversation.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting one to watch because again, it's somebody that now works for me, right? Works with me at the facility.
Yep.
Is a trainer alongside me and Bridget, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see the conversation without that, like, you know, you know what I mean? Like when we're coworkers, it's a little different, right? The relationship is a little different, you know, like where that conversation was about as open and true of a conversation as you could see about like our relationship that we have with each other.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
Yeah,
it was a great episode. And then very shortly after she reached out and she was like, hey, you guys hiring?
You said, yes, ma'am.
Said, come on in. So that was a good one. I liked that one.
Yeah. Michelle's been great.
Yeah, for sure. Episode 15. Let's see if you remember this one. Do you remember when Margot and Emma, 2 clients of mine, came on the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kept screwing up her name.
What?
I kept saying Margaret or something. You're like,
Did you say Margaret? Yeah. Well, I used to say Margot because Margot is like spelled out Margot, technically, right? So I would like say Margot all the time.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's not fucking Margot. That was a sweet episode. So those were 2 clients that did training with us again, like 5 years ago. Right? Had 2 dogs, and they just like absolutely loved training their dogs. It's like the perfect clients. You know what I mean? Perfect clients. Were insightful, but like open to anything we told them, and they were able to see obviously drastic results with their dogs. It was just great. It was they were great clients, and they got so interested in dog training after that like they actually reached out to me and they were like, hey, are you interested in like, we have all these questions we want to ask. And I can't remember, I know they said we have all these questions we want to ask you. I can't remember if they pitched the idea of doing the podcast or I did, but we were like, let's do it. And it was really cool because you'll see it is a direct conversation with myself and Josh and clients, right? Albeit more knowledgeable clients because of how much research they did on their own, but with clients nonetheless. And you could hear that conversation, that back and forth. We were talking about like TikTok trends that they were seeing. They were talking from the lens of a client, you know, how they perceived certain things that they saw initially versus obviously what wound up, they wound up learning. And it was just it was a solid conversation that I really liked.
Yeah, I remember being very surprised. I was like, "Are you sure you guys aren't trainers?"
Yeah.
Because they were like very on top of their stuff, and maybe that'd be a good one to have a recap at some point, like 5 years later.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it'd be cool.
I haven't talked to them in a while.
Yeah, we should see what
they both got married. We went to their weddings. We developed a pretty good friendship with them. I haven't spoke with them in a while though. So,
well,
might be time.
It might be time,
right?
Yeah.
So that was a great episode. Episode 15. Episode 23. This isn't now. We're getting into like there's like fun episodes, and then there's like these are actually really important episodes to listen to. Right. Episode 23. The Aggressive Dog Handbook, right? So I've talked about this so many times before. I used to write all these like procedures and blogs and things like that. And one of them that I did was called the Aggressive Dog Handbook, right? And basically that was a manual that I wrote to be able to provide to staff members that talks about being, not rehabilitating aggressive dogs, but being safe with aggressive dogs.
Yeah.
Right? When you are handling a dog that is aggressive. So this applies to obviously trainers, people in rescue, kennel workers. If you own a new dog that's aggressive, the dog's being aggressive towards you, it breaks down pretty much all of the circumstances that if a dog is going to be aggressive, it's going to be in these situations, and how to keep yourself safe in handling them, right?
Yeah.
And to this day, because in that episode, I basically told everybody, if you're interested in getting a copy of this, let me know, and I'll email you the PDF for it. To this day, I get people that email me saying, hey, can I get a copy of that Aggressive Dog Handbook? And I get and I still send it out to people. So
that's awesome.
It's still making its rounds. This particular episode, I read the whole handbook, and we basically broke down each step of it, and I just provided more insight into it, right? Yeah. So it's like the partner to the actual handbook is this episode.
Yeah, have you had to update it at all since, you feel? Or
I haven't read it in a while, honestly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really think that there's much else that would need to be updated.
Yeah, it's tried and true, huh?
Yeah, they're tried and true concepts. Like I said, it's not even methods. Yeah. None of it's methods. It's just like learning how to read the dogs you're working with and not put yourself in vulnerable positions.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
In most circumstances, like if there are circumstances where somebody gets bit that I hear about, I can almost always boil it down to them breaking one of the rules in the handbook. Almost always.
Yeah.
Almost always. So, great episode.
Yeah. What's next?
Moving on. Episode 32. Episode 32 was when Kate came on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
The wife of the dog trainer. Yep.
Yeah. And she still talks about to this day. She's like, whenever you want to do another one, let me know.
I'm like, we should. We should.
Yeah. It was funny because, obviously, as a dog trainer, right? Like my wife is not a dog trainer, obviously.
Yeah.
She is a very skilled dog handler at this point, obviously, because she lives with 4 fucking trained dogs that she needs to keep in check, right? Yeah. And she's also dealt with many, many issues, right? Aggression, dogs fighting, things like that. She's experienced a lot living with packs of dogs. Yeah. So she's been through the ringer, if you will, right? Yeah. So that was an interesting episode to talk about some of that and get into some of her experiences. And I think we even did a segment in it where we asked her dog training questions that people ask us to see how she would respond to them.
Yeah, you grilled her.
Grilled her a little bit on it. And it was just like a fun episode, right?
Yeah.
So that was a good one. I like that one, obviously.
Yeah. We should do that again, too. Yeah. Look at that. We're getting all these old ideas we had.
Yeah.
We used to be so cool.
We were so cool. Okay, moving on here. Episode 35. This one, it was all on using aversive control, right? So I think to this day, in the dog world, one of the most overlooked and misunderstood concepts is learning how to fucking correct your dog. People just don't get it. Like they make it so much more complicated than it needs to be.
Oh yeah.
They just like and there's so many mixed messages with it. And so people just don't know how to discipline their dog. They don't. right? And this episode, I believe, used some of Gary Wilkes' blogs, who really scientifically breaks down the use of aversive control and how to do it properly, and the rules for aversive control and all of that.
Yeah.
And we used like real life examples of how to then apply it and like use it to communicate with your dogs. And to this day, man, like when I do lessons with people, like that's the number one thing I need to teach people. I have a client I worked with yesterday, right? This client went to a local trainer. I won't even say a competitor, because this is not even really a competitor, honestly, right? Okay. They did 20 one-on-one lessons, and they did 16 group classes with this training company.
Yeah.
For dog aggression issues and dog reactivity issues, right? The dog still cannot socialize with other dogs. The dog is still highly reactive on a leash towards other dogs. And it's just it's a mess.
Yeah, that's a total mess.
It's a mess, right? So she's done 2 sessions with us so far. Session 1, we did all socialization stuff. Session 2, we did all leash reactivity stuff. And you'll see we're making a YouTube video of it now. It should be up in a couple of days. You'll see both of those sessions, the assessment of the social skills, the assessment of the leash reactivity. And I'll tell you, we literally, like in one session, were able to dissect exactly what her problems were.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and the root of the problem was she didn't know how to discipline her dog. She didn't, right? Like, because everybody overcomplicates this shit of how they're giving commands and enforcing commands, and like, they're using punishment, but they're trying to be as low and soft as possible with it, which is like not punishment. And it's just a mess, right? And just teaching her how to actually correct the dog in a meaningful and consistent way where the dog was going to be able to understand what it was getting corrected for and learn how to avoid the consequence moving forward, literally was able to resolve like 90% of her issues. And she did 36 lessons with this dog.
Yeah.
Somewhere else. And they couldn't get that message across to her. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So this is like not even like talking poorly on owners. It's like, I don't get why most trainers don't understand this concept.
Yeah.
It actually blows my mind sometimes.
I mean, that's so perplexing to me that they went, that amount of time and effort for nothing, basically.
Yeah. Now listen, like, and all of the training was done in like a class setting, like at their facility. So like the dog knows its shit.
Yeah.
But the problem is like most of the dogs we work with know their shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like until you learn how to then discipline the dog for not doing the shit that they know, you will never get anywhere.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
And that's the missing link. You could you could train 500 lessons, but if you never put the dog in a situation where they're struggling, ask them to do something that they know how to do, and then discipline them in a way that they really care about for not doing it, you will never get past issues with your dog.
Yeah.
And that's the missing link, and it only takes 1 session to do it once you've done your initial training with the dog. Right?
Yeah.
And doing the initial training with the dog doesn't take 36 sessions.
Not at all.
So I don't know. So that episode will help you to learn a little bit more on actually being able to discipline your dog for things. Because it's such a missing link. Like, how do dog trainers have such great relationships with their dogs? Because they discipline stuff and the stuff goes away. So you don't have to live with all these lingering behavioral issues forever.
Yep.
So, all right, moving on. Episode 42. When I got Waffles. The little waffle guy.
Little waffles.
Yeah. So our youngest dog now is fucking 3 or 4 or something like that. You know, and episode 42 was the first episode we did when I just got him. He was like 13 or 14 weeks old when I got him. And I had him for a week by the time we did this episode. And the whole episode was talking about what I did as a dog trainer with this dog for the first week of owning him to help him, get on the right track with this. Right? Owning a puppy shouldn't be that hard. It's a lot of work. Right. And we could argue that the lot of work is hard. But when you do things in a very clear way and you have a plan, past it being a lot of work, it should not be challenging to overcome problems you would experience with a young dog. Right. Yeah. But you just have to be very intentional about things. We talked about, so in his case, he was a very fearful and skittish puppy. Right, when I got him. And we talked about areas where immediately, as soon as I got him, I saw major roadblocks that his fear was causing him to respond in particular negative ways to, and how immediately I worked past them and got to a place where they were no longer problems after that. And it was all because I was intentional about working past it immediately.
Yeah.
right? We talked about how I got him to a place where from that point on, like the next like 10 episodes we did, we brought him up here and back tied him to that table right over there. And he just chilled and slept the whole time we were doing an episode. And he wasn't a nuisance and freaking out. He was able to just chill there, which is something else people struggle with puppies, is they can't get the dog to just like not be so glued to them all the time.
Exactly.
So we talked about all the things that we did to overcome those types of things. And I think that was big.
Yeah, man. I can't believe Waffles is already that old.
Right, 3 or 4, something like that.
Yeah. Remember when he was supposed to be like this big of a dog?
Yeah, they said he's going to be a Labradoodle. They said he's going to be a 60 or 70 pound Labradoodle.
How much does he weigh?
40. Maybe. Probably less than that, actually.
Yeah.
35, 40.
Yeah.
Tiny little guy.
He fell a little short of the expectations.
Little short of the expectations. They forgot about the mini poodle that was in him. You know?
Yeah, he definitely got that part.
So that was a good episode. If you're getting a new puppy, that's a very insightful one to watch. That'll give you some tips and tricks of ways to look at handling your new dog that you just got, obviously. So, next one. Episode 48. The double down episode.
Oh, man.
Talk about places where, like, again, like things that I disagree with that, like, Jeff Gellman's a big proponent of. We were kind of talking about earlier. The freaking double down, right?
Yeah.
That is the one area where I could confidently say, I think under, and I have to caveat this because we made a follow-up episode. I'll talk about it in a little bit here. Under 99.9% of circumstances, the double down is D-U-M-B. It is double dumb.
Double dumb.
It's double dumb, right? I don't see any circumstances aside from the one circumstance I'll re-outline in a second here that there is any productiveness to it. I think it's so unbelievably restrictive on dogs. I think that it is a completely unfair expectation to hold dogs to under most circumstances.
Yeah.
I think it's just looking to address things in the wrong way, which will lead to one of the further episodes, which is you're trying to combat an energy issue by forcing the dog into this like totally prone position, right? And then claiming that it's like we're fixing their state of mind by doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just not the case. The only, and again, we did a follow-up episode on this. You'll see the double down comes to the rescue or something like that. There was only one circumstance we ever used it, and it worked very well for us. And it was with a dog that was having crate issues, that was having excessive drooling problems, right?
Yeah.
So the double down was the only incompatible behavior we could teach that forced the dog to keep its mouth closed and not salivate all over its crate.
Yeah.
The only place we ever used it successfully. And it worked like a dream with that dog. I'll give it credit where the credit is due. It worked like a dream there. And a down would not have worked. The dog was not doing anything in the crate that we could correct for.
Yeah.
We needed to prevent the dog from salivating so much and get that mouth closed. And the only way to do that was by getting the dog to put its chin on the ground, obviously. Right? So I would recommend watching both of those.
Yeah. I remember that one got a lot of controversy though.
Oh, people get pissed when you start like ragging on certain training methods like this.
Yeah.
You know?
That was like, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. But here, I'm neither here nor there.
Neither here nor there. But yes, that was a good one.
It was.
That was a good one.
Yeah, you had choice words. I think that's when we started off. You were like pretty harsh.
Yeah.
You're like this stupid double down. I mean, you just called it double dumb. So
double dumb. I still think it's pretty dumb, but like, you know what?
It had its place.
Whatever floats your boat, right?
Right.
All right, moving on here. Number 59. This was the first episode I think we did talking about fighting dogs. All right, so dogs in the house that are getting in fights with each other. We actually had Bridget and Michelle on this episode. This was one of the first ones in a while that we had both of them come on the show live here. And we talked about a couple of client stories that we were working with recently that were fighting dog situations.
Yep.
And we broke down our ways of viewing it and some like controversial-esque ways of combating it, you know, that a lot of people don't really look at, like teaching the dogs to kind of squash their beef with each other and not just like avoiding situations, et cetera, et cetera. And that was a really, really important episode, I think, to watch, because I think it will get you viewing your fighting dog situations from a bit of a different light. We've went on to do many dog fighting episodes past that, talking about fighting dog situations, because it is one of the hardest to work through issues because there's so many variables. It's very hard to work through in the house, stuff like that. But this one in particular, I think we shined a new light on it a little bit that I think was not really being talked about in the dog world very much. So I liked that one a lot.
Yeah. We opened the can of worms on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to have them on again, man.
I know. It's hard. Their schedules are so fucking busy, you know?
Yeah. And I guess they have their own podcast.
That's their own podcast. They gotta save their insightful stuff for that one.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, moving on here. This is kind of a two-parter. So episode 62 and 63. So we had dabbled with probably in the in between 40 and 60 is when we started doing trainer review videos, right?
Yeah.
So this is the same deal. We were getting inspiration from what people were commenting, and we had a bunch of people commenting, hey, what do you think of this trainer? What do you think of this trainer? What do you think of this trainer? So we started, we got the TV, right? And we started watching YouTube videos and just talking about the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And I will say the first couple of them, we were pretty harsh on them. We talked about I think the first two that really caught some steam were the Tom Davis ones we did, where we watched a couple of his videos, and I'm not going to lie to everybody. What I was seeing in the video just looked kind of dumb. It didn't make sense.
Yeah,
I mean, to this day, we still get people commenting on those ones, either good or bad. It's one or the other. It's either people totally agreeing with me or people saying, fuck you, why would you make this video talking shit? Use the best trainer ever. And not just with him, but the other ones we did also. You either get the total hardcore people coming trying to defend the honor of the person we're talking about, or you get the people that are agreeing. Right? Yep. There's not really any in between, right?
No.
So we were doing that, and I hit a point, I was like, you know what? I want to start talking about stuff I like, right? I want to watch videos that are damn, when I first started training and I would find a video and just be like, oh my God, that's really good. I really like that, right? So we went into the archives of trainers that I really liked at the time, right? So when I was first coming up on training, it was a lot of Tyler Muto's videos. It was a lot of Michael Ellis videos. It was a lot of Brandon Fouché videos. It was a lot of, there was one more that we did in those 3 episodes. I don't remember what it was. Maybe Ivan or something. I don't know. Yeah. But whatever. So it was a bunch of, we watched a bunch of videos that at the time were very eye-opening to me, right? And listen, we could sit here and say, even with all of those trainers, there are places I agree and places I disagree as far as not disagree, a lot of what Michael said. Michael's not really going to ever say anything that's wrong, right? Tyler is not really going to say anything that's scientifically inaccurate in any places. But the application of some of the methods, I think some people can get a little bit too strong in one direction or another, right? And then with Brandon Fouché, there are some very extreme viewpoints on certain things that you got to take with a grain of salt and all that. But we watched a lot of videos that I remember watching when I first got into training dogs and just being damn. That was smooth. That was good. I really liked that. And we reviewed those videos in this. And I think maybe if you're a newer dog trainer and maybe you didn't get into dog training in the era of those guys, because all those guys became popular early on. You know what I mean? They became popular very early on. And things when I was just getting into dog training was on their up and up. And right now, all of them are doing various different things, but they're no longer the, people don't there's new internet celebrity dog trainers now that people follow, right? Yeah. So if you're a newer dog trainer, you didn't grow up with those guys, I heavily recommend watching this and getting some insight as far as why that stuff was so impactful for me when I first started training. Right? And getting a different viewpoint, because in this day and age, there are no good internet dog trainers, people posting videos that are as accurate and groundbreaking as what they were at the time as those videos were, or those trainers were at that moment. So heavily recommend 62, 63.
Yeah, dude, I think the most impactful one from those was, I know I bring him up all the time now, but the Brandon Fouché videos, I was just that was the first time we were watching it, I was just his thoughts and theories on socialization and stuff. I was wow, that was crazy.
The dude is kooky. Don't get me wrong.
Kooky for sure.
he absolutely blew my mind when it came to how to look at dogs socializing with each other.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still credit a lot of the social breakthroughs we're able to get with dogs because of some of the stuff that he would share at the time, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot you got to weed through. There's a lot of, in my opinion, bullshit that's mixed in there. But damn, like if you could just take some good stuff from it, it's very insightful stuff.
Exactly. Yep.
Moving on. What do we got here? Okay, moving on. Episode 73. So this one I want to tread a little gingerly with because like I don't want to make it seem like I'm like dogging on somebody, right?
Okay.
But that was an episode we had Chris Morale on from Revolutionary Canine.
Oh yeah.
Remember him, right? When I first met, like we had a very good relationship for a long time, and we don't have a bad relationship now. I just don't really talk to him anymore, right? Yeah. But he's grown a lot as a trainer. He's a like a gold multiplicator, I think, for the Nipopo school and all that, right?
Yeah.
And he does a lot with like police canines and stuff like that. But we had a great conversation. But I remember there was a moment in this conversation, and I remember we were talking about something, and it got a little awkward for a minute because like. He started saying, he was talking about like, oh yeah, Revolutionary Canine. That's the name I want people to remember. When people call the shop, I don't want them asking for, fucking Kira and Mike or anything. I want them calling, thinking Revolutionary Canine.
Yeah.
Right? So basically he was saying he wants the brand of Revolutionary Canine to be bigger than any of the individual trainers within it.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember at the time, like, it just kind of hit me. And this is really when we started pushing personal brands for all of our employees at the shop. And I kind of pushed back on him and was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I love when I get phone calls from people and, like, they request Bridget or they request Michelle or things like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I want I want them to build their brands. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't want that,
Yeah.
It was kind of this like little awkward back and forth exchange that we had that opened my eyes to how some people view their company and the individuals within their company. Right?
Sure.
And like I said, I'm treading gingerly because like I like Chris. I don't want to say anything like poorly, and I don't even know if he still thinks this way or anything. And we kind of resolved it in the conversation. I think even after the episode, I shot him a text and was like, "Hey man, sorry if that got a little bit awkward, But like, I literally remember a couple days after that episode came out, one of my trainers reached out to me and said, "Hey, like, I just wanted to let you know, like, I really appreciate you like standing up for us in that episode. Like they said, like, I've worked for people that like have that mentality about their staff, and like, it's awful. Like, it makes you feel like they just don't care about you. You know what I mean? And like, that was that episode really, like, forget like you guys learning anything from it. That was a big takeaway from me, is understanding the significance of that. And it reassured me of the things that I was doing within the company at that point. So that was a really good one. And that moment sticks out in my head to this day.
Huh. Yeah, I remember it, but I didn't remember it, I guess, for me, like, being that, like...
It was just a small part of it.
Yeah.
Like, it was like an hour and a half long episode. It was maybe like a 15-minute segment of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, though. Like, I mean, there's... In this like line of work, like having a personal brand, I think is more beneficial than anything, because people have to trust like the individual
that's working with their dog.
Yep, exactly.
That is true. Excuse me. Okay, moving on. Man, this episode's going by quick.
Yeah, it is.
Episode 85, maybe one of the most important episodes I ever did. It was the behavioral euthanasia episode.
Oh,
where I shared my story with behavioral euthanasia. That episode, again, getting back to this day, probably once a month, I get a message or an email from somebody randomly that found us through that episode that just wanted to reach out and share their experience and their story, or have somebody to tell what they're going through with their dog, and that they were going to need to put their dog down over some behavioral issues and things like that. I get messages to this day from people saying how much that episode helped them to realize that they are doing the right thing. And that I think is super, super cool. For as hard of an episode as that was to film, I delayed so long making that episode, but I knew I needed to do it, and we did it. And that is an episode that has helped so many people, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. Our old boy.
Katie boy.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
No, I was just thinking. No, I was just thinking of Cade back in the day. You know, it was an interesting time. You know, that dog had a crazy life.
Sure did. Yeah, definitely. If you guys want to hear that story,
I would go back
on the episode.
Yeah, literally, it's a good that was a really good one. I think it was, you know, because it wasn't just like you weren't like wishy-washy about it. You were like, this is exactly why it had to happen. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think that is good for people to hear.
Yeah, and like I shared like all of the fucking details of it, right? So like all of the incidents we had with him, all the places where myself as a trainer, I fucked up royally that caused him to be in situations that there were incidents that happened. Like we broke it all down.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely if you are, you know, ever even considering behavioral euthanasia with your dog, you're working with a dog where you don't know if that's an option you should consider or not, that episode might provide a bit of insight into you. And not that I'm like proponent of like everybody should be euthanizing their dog for behavioral issues, but like there is a line that we tried to find in that episode of like at what point do you make that call? Right. And it's different for every situation, but I think we tried to like break down a lot of the variables in it. So. Yeah.
And I think if anyone is ever like, well, how would you know, you know, it's like I kind of went through the worst of it.
Yeah. We talk about all the time, like whether it's behavioral euthanasia and like aggression issues or like dog fighting issues or like, you know, both behavioral issues. Like the one thing that sets us apart, I think, from a lot of people is we've experienced so many of these issues with our own dogs, you know, so we could relate and empathize to our clients so much better because of it.
Yep.
So.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on here. So this is another chunk of episodes. We have episode 89, 96, 97, and 98. So this was when we were going hard on let's get all the guests on the podcast. And this was a stretch of episodes where we had fucking Tyler Muto, 89, American Standard Canine, 96, Dog Daddy, 97, Blake Rodriguez, 98. Like that was a stretch of, again, Dog Daddy, like that was more like a crazy episode than anything.
Yeah.
But Tyler, American Standard, and Blake, like some big heavy hitters in the industry. We got all of them on in a short period of time. And we talked about such a variety of different topics, right? Like at the time, Tyler was really pushing his like trainer coaching stuff. He had just sold his business and he was just consulting dog trainers at that point full time. And that whole episode was basically talking about all of the fucking stupid shit that business owners in the dog world do and how to avoid those things and not let them become big problems, right? Yep. And again, that was a really great episode. 96, American Standard. He was just a big name in the dog world at that time. I think to this day, like he's one of the most followed dog trainers on the internet currently.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's been through his fair share of controversy as well. He had like a couple videos go viral that like really painted him a bit in a bad light. And we were able to talk about those and have him clarify some of them. And like, I didn't know what to expect going into it because I obviously never interacted with him before. And I wanted to get him on the podcast. He was, you know, gracious enough to come on and spend over 2 hours with us on the podcast. And I left that episode being like, man, this dude gets a lot of shit, you know? Hold on, I guess.
Oh, bless you. Got another one?
I don't know. You know, like I was just saying a minute ago, there's very few dog trainers out there right now that are in the public eye that are like celebrity dog trainers that are doing really good work. Like most of them, it feels like they're just content creators, not dog trainers, right? I left that episode feeling like this dude knows his shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I left that episode feeling like this guy deeply cares about dog training. He deeply cares about creating content, which is great, but like he's training dogs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We had a great conversation. I really, really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. I think he's one of the friend of the show, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely one of the friends of the show. I liked every conversation we've had with him.
Dog Daddy one, we talked about that one already, obviously. And then Blake Rodriguez, like, he's gone through his waves of training. Like, he was super fucking popular for a while when he was in New York. Then he moved to Florida. Then he kind of, like, backed off from the content a little bit. Like, kind of, whatever. Seemed to experiment with things. And then, like, he's got a very interesting view on training these days. You know, he is very, I don't know, holistic is the right word or what. But, like, he's if you watch his stuff, it seems like he's found a newfound passion for training dogs as of like when we did that episode and now, where he's doing them out of his house. He's out of the facility setting. He's kind of getting back to his roots a little bit with stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a really good conversation. It was the first time I had ever talked to anybody about like J-Jack's like Windows theory, which whatever. I have some opinions here or there about that, which we kind of broke down a little bit, but like nonetheless, it was a really good conversation.
Yeah.
So I liked that one a lot. I definitely recommend watching that episode too.
Yeah. That was a good chunk of time right there, those.
Yes. All right, moving on here. We got 6 left here. Next one, episode 104, stopping accidents in the crate. So in this episode, we get a lot of people that reach out to us that struggle deeply with dogs pissing in the fucking crate when they leave the house.
A lot.
Right? And it's seeming like it's this crazy, like it's happening multiple times a day. You can't, it's just so out of control. And it can be one of the most frustrating things you could ever deal with as an owner, right? One of the most frustrating things ever, right? And there was a client I was working with, Jerry. The dog's name was Jerry. And this dog was having that issue. The individual felt like she was a victim of her house, like trapped in her house, right? Because this dog, anytime she would leave, it would pee or poop in the crate. And it was just, she was coming home and needing to clean him in the crate. And it was so stressful. And it was just a disaster, right? And like, it had become such a strong habit for the dog that a lot of the traditional things that you would do to work through it just weren't working, right? Yeah. So we had to, for like a couple of weeks, we did consults because she was living out of town at the time. We did consults regularly over the phone every couple of days to troubleshoot and work through different things to change until we got a handle on it. And we were able to fully 100% get past the issue with this dog. And we broke down everything that we did in that episode. Great episode.
Yep. Yeah, that's a very good one. I think you've sent that to a few people.
I'm sure I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Like, just watch this.
Just watch it. Okay, moving on. Episode 106, 108, 109. When we got into the second most watched episodes that we've done with the whole fucking Zach George Oregon's Balanced Dog Training, where he was just going off on everybody. It's the first time he ever really used his whole platform of many, like millions of followers to just like weaponize them against, you know, the dog industry. It was at the time when there was a lot of talks of legislation. It was looking like it could have possibly been a big deal. And we kind of followed it live. We were like reporters following it live. It even progressed to us getting interviewed by the New York Times on it going on. And it was just like a whole thing. Yep. And if you're a dog owner out there that's really wondering about, like, you're a new dog owner, you're getting into the dog training space, learning about it, you know, you're interested in it, and you want to really learn why there's so much controversy in the dog world, those are the episodes to watch to get you like a full scope picture of what's going on. Right? Luckily that all fizzled out. I think everybody now just, Zach George, like, he just seems like he's just completely gone off his rocker. I refuse, past right now, obviously, because we're talking about these episodes, I like refuse to even talk about him anymore because like he's just gone so crazy, and like nobody even on his side of things like even really takes him seriously these days. Yeah. You know? Yeah, that was the beginning of the downfall. The beginning of the downfall.
Circle into madness.
But that like 3 episode thing is very good to watch, because I broke down 2 sides of it. I broke down a video Zach made. I broke down a video that Ivan made. And then I also broke, so you get to hear the force-free side, the balance side, and then when they started all debating with each other, we broke down all of that as well. Yeah.
And let it be known, we gave him the opportunity.
Yeah, everybody. Literally, and this is why I refuse to even talk about it, because everybody, like, there's people out there that have offered him like $40,000 to like go train with them and stuff. Yeah. He's a joke.
Yep.
Nobody cares about him.
Joke.
Okay, next one. Getting back to, so these are 2 bangers here. We'll talk about both of them. Episode 114, dealing with your dog's energy, right? This was one of the most important episodes I think I made as well, because getting back to talking about double downs and state of mind work and all this kind of stuff, like, I get so many people that ask me fucking questions about just dogs that are just highly energetic dogs, right? And how to deal with it.
Okay.
And everybody looks at it the wrong way. Everybody looks at it from the lens of like forcibly controlling a dog to be slower physically, but not actually looking at the root causes of why the dog is so energetic in the first place. And I bridge the gap of how to change associations with things that are causing so much energy, how to kind of accept who your dog is in some cases, how a lot of the things that there are trainers out there recommending that you do to combat energy are actually making your problem worse, right? Like, it is a really, really thorough, detailed episode where we talk about all things high energy, annoying dogs.
Yeah.
Right? And it was just, I think that is such an important episode for people to watch, to kind of look at things from, again, I think a different light that most people are not talking about right now.
Yeah.
So that was a great one. Moving on to 122, one of my most referenced episodes, I think, is the Get It Under Control episode. I had a stretch of dogs that just were very behaviorally challenged, that, you know, it was like blowing my mind how easy it was to work through some of the issues with them simply by adopting a mentality of, we're getting this behavior under control right now.
Yep.
Right? Whether it was reactive dogs, really pushy dogs, handler aggressive dogs, things like that. We adopted the mentality of get it under control with those dogs. And that means just stop it now. The second it starts, get it under control, right? Getting back to learn how to punish your dog for these things so they're not reoccurring issues and you could stop it. And I talked about it in that episode, and I used exact examples of things I did with certain dogs to get behavior under control. And I remember when I made it, I was like, oh, this is going to ruffle some feathers, because I talked about being pretty hard on some dogs in it. And I think it was only ever met with like a positive reception. I think people, it really resonated with people. Yeah. And the one dog particularly that I use the example of in it that I was really hard on, I to this day still get updates. The dog was fighting other dogs in the house. The dog was trying to bite them and other people. The dog was unbelievably reactive on a leash. And like, we got it under control. And to this day, the dog's still doing good. That was years ago. Right. So like,
hell yeah.
Watch that episode if you're struggling, and you're struggling with, I think you should watch that episode if you are struggling with being hard on your dog. If you feel you're constantly just being a little bit too soft, right, and not hard enough on your dog, you need to watch that episode and start reframing your mentality as far as how you view some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. Next one. 134. This is where I started spacing them out, because obviously you start getting into new episodes. We're not really going to talk about the new ones from there, because you guys have all fucking seen the new ones. 134, balanced dog training made my dog worse. This was a great episode that we did because nobody talks about the quote unquote fallout of training methods. But we all know that in balanced dog training, the misuse of aversives will cause fallout, right? Now, when I say fallout, I don't mean long-term ruining dogs or anything like that, but there are things you could do that could give you the perception that your dog is getting worse if you do them incorrectly, right? And this episode, we broke down all of that. So we looked at it from like a different light of like, hey, yes, it can get worse if you do things this way, this way, this way, this way, but we break down some of the common misconceptions of it. Right? Of like well, you're just going to create more fear and this and that. And we broke down exactly what it is that you're doing that's making it look worse in the moment and how to fix those types of things. And it's funny, we did this episode and it turned out the person that, it was like from a YouTube comment that like somebody commented, somebody commented and said like, oh, like I don't use balanced dog training anymore because I tried it and my dog got 10 times worse and this and that. So I did a whole episode talking about all the reasons why it would in direct response to that comment. And I think the person like commented on it, it was like, wow, this episode just highlights why you're so fucking, you know, like, okay,
of course.
Whatever.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like,
okay.
Yeah. So it seemed it was a gotcha comment, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, super good episode. I still send this episode to people sometimes that have questions or concerns about things they're struggling with their dog. Right. And then we're going to get into the last one here, episode 166. Socialization rules, right? So I was joking that, people ask me all the time, oh, do you have a video on this? Do you have a podcast on this? One of the most common ones is socialization. How do I socialize my dog with other dogs?
Yep.
And I've done a million episodes on it, but I think this one in particular we made in response to people asking that question of like, how do I socialize my dog with other dogs? And we broke down the rules that I follow every time I socialize dogs. That makes it so that under 99% of circumstances, you're not going to have any problems when you go to do it. So if you want to learn how to socialize your dog, watch that fucking video.
Boom.
And this is my index of like, as I was just casually strolling through this morning, episodes that I was like, damn, I remember that one. Damn, I remember that one. Damn, I remember that one.
Yep.
And they were good. So, I don't know what you're getting from this episode other than, like I said, use this episode as the index of all of the podcasts we've done so far. Go dig through some of those old ones. Like if you just started getting into the podcast in the last couple months or the last year, like I know there are some people that have gone back and started from one and gone through, but like this, I feel like is a good one to look at as far as like, 201 episodes times, let's just say an hour, like you got 200 episodes. That's 200 hours of time. Like that's a big commitment to watch 200 hours. But if you could look through and take 50 episodes, right? Or 35 episodes or something and watch those ones, these are the ones that I would watch.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe you'll learn something. Who knows?
Yeah. At least a thing or two.
Might learn a thing or two. So that's what I got.
Yeah.
You got anything else to share? Anything else memorable?
Well, can you imagine that we'd be here at episode 200?
I don't know. I don't really know. You know what I mean? Like, it's like maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like I was just of the mindset of like, we're going to keep going. I don't think I ever was like, I'm going to stop doing it. I think there were times I was like, maybe I'll slow down a little bit with it or like, you go in and out of waves. But I don't think I ever thought to myself, like, the podcast is going to be done. Like, I've always seen and been able to like visualize the importance of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever thought to myself, like, early on, oh, yeah, well, we're going to hit 200 one day. I just thought, like, we're just going to kind of keep doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
No, I don't know. It's been a great experience. It's crazy to think that we started this in 2021.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's what, like you said at the beginning of this, it's like, man, that feels like it was last year, maybe.
Yep.
It was not last year.
Not last year.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's always great.
4 years. That would be 4 years that we've been doing it.
Yeah, 4 years.
I was saying 5 earlier. It's 4 years.
Close enough.
Come end of this year, it will have been 5 years.
Yeah, we're almost to the 4.5 mark at this point. But no, it's great as a non-dog trainer. To hear and grow and I've used stuff that we've talked about here with Bender at home and it's made me more conscious of things that I do with my dog over time and it's I feel like it's been a great resource not only for me but for a lot of people in the same situation with me where it's like really care about my dog and want to know how I can always be a better like owner.
Oh, show.
And on the flip side, I know there's a lot of trainers that listen to this too, and I think you probably helped a lot of people grow within their own training business and craft.
Hopefully, like I don't know, even if it's just giving you a little spark of inspiration with things.
Yeah.
I love when I get people that reach out that say they're listeners. You know what I mean? Like it's cool. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like the work you're putting in is helping people, right?
Doing something.
So it's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
But that's what we got for you guys.
Yeah.
Like I said, we'll try to do a 200 part 2 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Keep doing some special stuff over the next few.
For sure. And whatever you guys want. What do you want to see in the next 200?
The next 200.
Yeah.
Fill us in.
Yeah, let us know if there's something we could be doing better. Give us some feedback. Because we'd love to do whatever we can. And I think so far, kind of what we're trying to do is, more consistent guests, do the Q&As. We kind of have a system planned out for this year. So if there's anything you'd like to add, or us to add, let us know.
Yep. But until then, see you on 201.
We'll see you.